Hello everyone, today we're looking at this Panasonic RQ-E20V Walkman. It works with a single AA battery. It's in pretty bad shape. I bought this off an auction site for about €6. We can see it's made in Taiwan. It's got a selector for mono and stereo or normal tape and high. It's got auto reverse, XBS, digital tuner. It's got mechanical controls, forward and rewind, the direction for auto reverse. It's got a lot of scuffs and scratches on it. And this particular model got a problem. The tape won't start up. As you can see, if we press play, nothing happens, it doesn't roll. Doesn't work in either direction. Let's plug it in. We can look at the radio, that it's still working perfectly. Manual volume control. XBS, bass expander. Mono, back to stereo. We've got this switch here. Find the frequency. This switch here has 3 positions. It must be selected on main in order to turn the radio on and off and to tune in the frequency.
A fost un eșec total, am trecut din cauza programului informatic a fost comandat.
Then we must put the position to sub in order to memorize the frequency on a preset and press the desired preset button and it will memorize it, like that. An M will be displayed on the LCD. Then also on the sub selector you can change the preset. Going back to main and we can turn off the radio. And of course the last position is hold. So you can't press the buttons when you keep it in your pocket. Looking at the service manual, we can see power requirements, 1 DC battery, output on headphones, weight, frequency response on the tape from 40 to 16,000 Hz, tape speed, radio section, and so on. Now looking at the disassembly instructions, we can see there's no screws on it. We must take off the door panel and you can easily break those leads. You must push it from the sides and using a screwdriver take it apart. And after that we've got the rear cabinet, the part with the buttons that it shows here. It's got 2 claws inside the cassette section, but that's actually a lie. I'm sorry I didn't film that, but it's got claws all over. So you won't do anything if you push those claws in. Now after we've opened it, we can see here that we must remove the screws, 3 screws, and then unsolder these. We've taken apart the back cover. It looks pretty okay inside, nice and clean. Also on the cassette section, pretty clean. I can see that the head and the rubber wheels look okay, with no signs of wear. Now let's take apart the screws. We've got 3 screws. I've seen some claws in here and tried to take them apart. But back to the manual, it says unsolder the antenna chassis point. Number 2, disconnect the solder B, and afterwards D and C. Well, I can tell you that's a lie. Now looking here, we can see that the belt completely disintegrated. Some signs of the melted rubber here. And now let's try to unsolder the antenna chassis as it says in the manual. So I tried and tried and tried this for a couple of minutes and nothing came off. And I'm telling you, this is completely unnecessary, and I don't know why, but the Panasonic guys are mischievous. It's not necessary to unsolder those 4 contacts, as the mainboard will come out without that. So we're gonna proceed and unsolder the playback head wires here. The red, the black and the white. You should take a picture of it first to remember the order they were in. And after that, let's unsolder the 5 contacts of the motor. That's actually the only thing keeping the mainboard in place, besides the 3 screws that we took apart earlier. And this is why I dislike servicing Panasonic, because lots of stuff are soldered, unlike Sony products that doesn't have any soldering and everything comes apart easily only with screws and little connections. You should be careful when pushing up the mainboard when unsoldering this, because you could easily break the circuits. I really don't understand why they didn't put a little connection between the motor and the mainboard without soldering the contacts. Okay, so now we can take it apart, as you can see, without unsoldering the antenna. Just push it up and to your right side, in order for the headphone jack to come out from under the plastic. And it's out. Fortunately, we didn't damage it. As we can see here, it's got some little electrolytic capacitors. I don't know, they seem a little bloated, and indeed those should be replaced too if the Walkman was extensively used in the past 15 years or so since it was made. Now looking here, we can see the melted belt. It turned to complete mush, so the next step is to take the remains apart and to clean the mechanism and all the wheels. Now let's take some isopropylic alcohol and clean everything, also the buttons that have some dirt on them. And proceed to clean the motor and all the melted rubber on all the wheels. You must make sure that no sticky residues remain on the belt path. And now let's use some siliconic grease in order to lubrify the mechanism wheels. Next up I have my collection of belts from China. Let's see if we can find the right diameter, as we don't have the original belt anymore, so let's see if any of these will fit. The belts that I have here are 0.8 mm in width and various lengths. This one seems to have the proper length. Let's try it out. Yep, seems to be just right. Seems to spin effortlessly, without being too loose or too tensioned. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep this. Okay, after we've found the right belt, now let's proceed and make sure that the antenna is soldered well, and next to solder back the main board. First, we must clean the motor contacts. Now let's make sure we find the right spot for the main board again. It's got some claws here. Make sure they fit perfectly. I'm gonna put some flux in here and then resolder the motor contacts. And then proceed to solder back the playback head wires. So first white, then black and then red. Now let's put a battery and let's see if it works. Okay, seems to spin okay in both directions. I think that's good. And now with the Walkman connected to the recorder, let's put on a cassette and see if it plays okay.
Choking and dying, packed and swarming, sightless and colorless, moving by program alone.
Seems to play okay in both directions. I can't hear any badly wow and flutter. The volume works okay. Let's try another tape. Some Chemical Brothers in here. Activate the extra bass.
Take that, motherfuckers!
Yeah, seems fine. And now we must put the test tape and try to calibrate the speed. I've got here the 3150 Hz tape and the wow and flutter meter, and it shows 3225. It's a bit too fast, so we should calibrate it. So right here on the back we have this little screw, it says speed there. That's where you can adjust the speed with a little screwdriver. I'm gonna put on a rubber glove because my screwdriver isn't isolated and the electricity of your body might influence the speed having direct contact with the screw. I should go as closely as I can to 3150 Hz. Well, usually the calibration test is made with a 3000 Hz with 3 kHz test tape, but I have this one. Okay, this seems about right. It goes down about 2 Hz, but I don't think that's audible. I'm gonna leave it like this. Now Let's put on a music tape and see how it sounds. Seems to be okay, yeah. In both directions.
Tinted glass mingling subterranean with the wormhole subway channels, underground walkways, and maintenance tunnels forming a sprawling interconnected warren of damp.
Okay, I think that's it. Next up, we must put it back on. Let's put the 3 screws back on the mainboard. Clean the display, make sure it's nice and clean, and put back the back panel. Make sure it fits nicely again in all the claws. And pay particular attention to the hold button. That's got 3 positions. Make sure the button is on the main when putting it back together. Now the battery door. And finally, the door cover, that's a bit trickier. We must be careful not to break the feet and also put the spring back in place. And that's it. Alright. Hope you will find this helpful. Thanks a lot for watching.